All right, everyone, it's 12:03, March 12th, 2021. Just waiting for Peter Stampfel to join us on this call. He has sent me a urgent message looking for Zoom link, help. Talking about, oh, there he is, Peter.
Oh, hey, hi.
Hi, I can't see you very well. Do you have another light where I could see you?
Can't see me very well.
Oh, there we go. That's better. Okay, this is very dark. You were in shadow. Wow. So
let me put a shade up. Maybe that'll help. Hang on.
Maybe.
Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll turn the light on.
Much better. Wonderful. Thank you, sir. It's an honor to meet you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to turn up my volume here. I'm recording this in a couple of different ways. I'm doing a video recording and I'm also doing an audio recording on my phone. So,
all right.
Back up. So, okay. I don't know where we want to start. It's such a marvelous project. It's so big. When did the idea come into your head of doing a 20th century?
'02.
Okay. And were you in touch with any of the, like Mark seems like he was a big part of the project. Was he?
Oh yeah. Well, he's my the main person I've been working with since oh golly, let's see, the first recording we did together was, you must remember this, in 1989.
Okay.
And the only other guy I'm working with is this guy, Doc Gregory, who's local, and he's who I've been working with for the atomic metapagans in the various, New York and outfits. But I've made about 4 albums besides these with Mark already.
I probably have them here, but I haven't looked at all the players on all the albums. So he seems like he was a really important force in getting this project completed. Am I right about that?
That doesn't even begin to cover it. It would absolutely be impossible without Mark. He was the engineer, the arranger, the other musician finder. He played on a bunch of things, and considering the time the whole project looked, there were 4 technological switches needed because of equipment originally used was suddenly outdated, and had to so that happened 4 times in order to like continue working with old stuff. So they had to be like upgraded.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that was one of the many difficulties.
Okay, all right. Like, what was there an original conception of the project in 2002 that changed at all over time, or is it really just the same idea that you had in 2002?
Oh, same idea.
Same idea.
It got more elaborate somewhat, and I got the idea to do an overview of the whole project as well as the individual liner notes. I'm not sure when I decided to do that, but that was the only part of the project that wasn't there from the get-go.
I don't. An overview? I don't actually know this. I've read the liner notes, or most of them, but what overview?
The overview is going to be online only. I think it's going to be out in, I have to check. I think it's supposed to be interactive as well. And it's basically an overview of the 20th century.
Okay.
Like a basic, like running history. It's about another 15,000 words maybe. Like the total notes with the liner notes of this overview is like 40,000 words.
Wow.
Yeah. And the overview is intended to be interactive. Like I would like people to like, how many you picked that song when you could have picked that one? Or else, or like, you're wrong about this thing. What, it was inspired by my experience with threads on Facebook. So frequently I'd post music and people would post things about a particular piece of music, artist, song, whatever. There was totally new, fascinating information. It happened over and over and over. And I started thinking, well, threads are a new literary form, what do you call it? A collaborative writing form, which is, new. Then I thought, since when? And I thought, well, it has to go back to, my guess was The Well, which is the first online site of people getting together to comment on things like the first that's where the thread was born, basically, with The Well.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that The Well was co-founded by Stuart Brand of Whole Earth Catalog fame, which is, so Stuart Brand is one of the fathers of the thread, which is a cool thing I found out during this process.
Okay. Were you involved in early internet stuff or The Well or any of that?
No, I'm technically challenged, and I still need constant help from my son-in-law. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, you just. I only have this idea of people saying, why didn't you do this song? I do have two of those that I'm just curious about. There are no Hank Williams covers on this set, or did I miss one?
No, there aren't.
Why not? That strikes me as a curious thing.
I hadn't even thought about that, actually. Well, it's like musical chairs. there were more asses than there were chairs.
Right.
I mean, there's all sorts of country music is pretty unrepresented. There's only 2 country songs there, actually. A Pistol Packin' Mama and Slippin' Around.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of references to country music in the overview, which is like I found out that there were more crossover country songs happening earlier than I realized. Like I found out that there were a whole bunch of songs in the 40s that I didn't know were country crossovers. Like a bunch of them, and I'm sort of knowledgeable, but like I knew something, like I knew Red Roses for a Blue Lady was a country crossover, but and of course I can't think of any offhand right now.
But no, of course, yeah. It works that way. Were you, when you were sort of starting out with the Fundamental Rounders, going back to the early 60s, how did you feel about country music? Was that something like, for me, like I'm an old punk rocker, and for me, country music was horrifying for years, except for maybe Johnny Cash, and I still know people who were like that. I've grown to love it, mostly thanks to Eugene Chadbourne, who got me into like Roger Miller and things like this. And
Roger Miller,
Peter makes bowing, genuflecting.
Yeah.
So like, did you have an attitude towards country music? Is there a reason why there's not much of it on the anthology, or?
Well, my first exposure to country music was Thistleback and Mama at the age of 4 or 5, and there's a Star Spangled Banner Waving Somewhere, which was also another crossover country song, which I heard as a child, and both the songs really moved me profoundly. And then in the around 47, I heard Jo Stafford in her channeling Maybelle Carter as Cinderella G. Stump doing Temptation. You know that one?
Not sure. I don't know.
It's a 30 song, very dramatic pop song called Temptation. And she did a hillbilly version with Red Snow Mine. And and say hi to Skabooch. Skabooch says hi.
What's your cat's name, Peter?
Skabooch.
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 My cat's not visible. I have a cat here named Tybalt.
Oh, I saw her in the corner a little while ago, just sneak by. Anyway, so this is a parody of a pop song done hillbilly style, and it absolutely devastated me. I was just like just hearing it just thrilled the shit out of me, and it was like a template for a lot of my music. The idea of applying country music to the Great American Songbook, and it makes for some awesome hybrids. Then I heard things like Money Marbles and Chalk in the late 40s, which I did with Hey Hey, me and Jeffrey Lewis, that album.
Yep.
Yeah, like Jeffrey actually added a new verse to it, but that was like another. And then like I heard Hank Williams on the radio in the 40s. He didn't register, but the theme song "Happy Rollin' Cowboy" did. Oddly, and I became aware of Hank Williams, of course, in the early 50s. He crossed over like crazy. Not to the extent or length of time that Gene Autry did. I mean, Gene Autry was crossing over into pop for decades, and of course, Hank Williams barely lived decades. Anyway, but I did get sort of an attitude about country music in the 50s, and when I heard bluegrass for the first time, bluegrass folk music, Bohemia, I was going to be my background's lower middle class. I was going to be the first kid in the family to go to college, and after being there for a month, I discovered I found 3 Bohemians and basically adopted them, and found out about folk music and Bohemia and bluegrass. So for a while I was saying bluegrass good and country bad, Yeah. But then went down to Nashville in 1957, and listened to the radio on the way down, and the song Fraulein got to me. I could not deny that song, and that made me realize that sure, a lot of country songs are crappy, but sure, a lot of every kind of song is crappy,
Yeah.
And that's the point at which I acknowledged country music.
Okay, I'm curious about one particular album, which was my favorite country album when I was a kid, from my dad's collection, and that was Marty Robbins' Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs. Is that one that matters to you? Curiosity.
El Paso was a big hit, of course.
Yeah.
And he was in fact barred from Grand Ole Opry because his band had drums in 1960.
Okay.
but yeah, I mean that's during that time I was somewhat of a still had some folk music purist attitudes about you know country music, as well as like you know, the occasional spurning of things that were popular, even if I happen to like them, you know.
Mm.
So so when the song was out, I had like you know, it was a good song. It's an amazing song, actually, you know, and a great arrangement. Yeah, that's a great album.
Were your parents at all influencing your musical taste when you were young? Did you get any records from your parents? There's some songs from your childhood on this on the 100.
They're from the radio. Like pardon me. Um, I point out in the, I don't know whether it's in the liner notes. Oh yeah, yeah, in the liner notes, I'm like put your arms around me, honey, hold me tight. I used to sing to my mommy while sitting in the potty at the age of 2. And I mean, I like put your arms around me, honey, hold me tight. My 1911 song, The 100, was one of the songs I was singing. And the Marine hymn, How's a Montezuma to the Shores of Tripoli, you know, and American Patrol, another patriotic song, like an old march with new, pretty awful patriotic words put to it. And I'm singing Blues in the Night. So yeah, I was aware of music from the radio, and I have a pretty good memory for songs. You know, I even I wrote the first jingle I remember is from 1945. And I wrote on all the jingles I could remember some time ago, and there's like, you know, 60 or 70 of them all told. I recorded a bunch with my kids, which are going to be released in a while.
Yeah.
It was a radio, like I heard this stuff on the radio, and a lot of songs I thought were contemporary, I found out were actually songs from the 20s that were you know, redone in the 40s.
Right. You mentioned in the notes about what's his name? There's a lot of people I don't know at all. Bert Williams and the song "Nobody." You say in the liner notes you figured that was from the 20s or 30s, and you were blown away that it was from 1906. I mean, that's one of the things I'm interested in knowing about and trying to understand is your criteria for selecting songs. Like, sometimes it seems like you're choosing songs because they're personal favorites or have a connection to you. Sometimes it seems like you're choosing songs because they're the perfect song. Sometimes you're choosing songs because I'm assuming things like I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles or School Days, that these are songs you're choosing just because of their overwhelming historical importance and popularity at the time. And sometimes you're digging really deep and coming up with people who I think are kind of forgotten. I mean, I'd never heard of Bert Williams before listening to Nobody. It's brilliant. There's a few other people, Norman Gimbel, who seems like a really interesting person. Tandon Almer, I know Along Comes Mary. I don't know anything about Tandon Almer. So I'm learning a lot about these people. So like, were there different criteria or different songs selected for their year based on what, like, how did you choose which song for which year?
Well, some songs were automatic, like 1967 had to be Waterloo Sunset, you know, and 1966 had to be Along Comes Mary, 1944 had to be Long Ago and Far Away, 1912 had to be Ragtime Cowboy Joe, but and 71 had to be Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. But in many cases, they were just like, there were these songs I already did. And I just had to look up, okay, what year was that? Okay, well, there, I'll put it there. So there were, like that happened a lot, you know? And other cases, I would look at songs from a given year and basically, you know, pick the one that, you know, called to me, you know? like School Days was kind of like it's really like nobody knows the intro to the song, you know, which makes the song which really makes it a whole different song, you know. Hey, hi. Okay, I'm doing a Zoom interview. I am doing a Zoom interview.
He's doing an interview.
Yeah. Anyway, like I had trouble with these 80s and 90s because when I was living with Antonia, 62 to 78, she had the radio on all the time, including at night, because she had night horrors. And the radio on kept her night horrors at bay to a degree. So I was pretty exposed when I moved in with my current wife, Betsy, in 78. My tastes are more broad than hers are. So basically, we only listened to stuff that we both liked. So I missed a lot of stuff that was going on, as well as the fact that there was more stuff going on, you know. So like I had about half of the 80s and 90s songs picked, like a couple I heard on the radio that I liked a lot, like The Way and You Take Me Up and Swinging. But I finally had to go to the expert witness site, which is a bunch of serious music geeks, Bob Christgau fans that inherited his site. And I went there finally with years saying, "Hey guys, I need some got any good songs for these years?" And that's how I filled in the blanks for the 80s and 90s.
What specific songs were filled in that way?
Earth to Grandma.
I didn't know that either. That's an awesome recording, man. That's incredible.
And there were songs, they named a lot of songs that I knew, but hadn't really thought of much, like the Buzzcocks. Did you ever fall in love with somebody you shouldn't have fallen in love with? I didn't realize that was like considered the almost archetypical new wave song, as well as their most well-known, you know, song. And like a number of songs I picked for the 80s and 90s turned out to be fantastically popular. Like it was kind of weird. Like I thought, well, that's a good song. And then I found out that like Wannabe, like I mean that you know, like that the backstory for that song is really interesting as well.
Sorry, could you say that again? The backstory of that what? I mean,
the backstory of Wannabe is really interesting.
Yeah.
And also several kind of perverse, like people are like, why do you pick Goodbye for 1968? Like, and of all the Beatles songs, you could have picked her Paul McCartney, Lennon songs. And one, I really like that song. And also, it's a sweet and sappy song, you know, on one level. And 1968 was like the shittiest year of the 1960s. It was really like a catastrophically horrible year. And the irony of this, you know, like sweet song for that year, I kind of like was part of the you know, my you know, perverse reasons for choosing it. But I like the song. I've always liked the song.
Were you in any way saying goodbye to the 60s with that? No, that's probably not. No. Yeah. I was born in 1968, by the way. So.
Oh. It was a hell of a year, easily.
Yeah, I think we actually talked a little bit about it before, but just for people who, like the last time I interviewed you 10 years ago, I think we talked about the death of the 60s a bit. But why was 1968 the shittiest year of the 60s? What in specific are you thinking of when you say that?
Well, in the early 60s, like Julie Garber said that in the 50s, nobody could have possibly have anticipated the 1960s ever in a million years. And when in the early 60s, there was this incredible optimism, this incredible idea of like new possibilities that were previously undreamt of, that seemed to be moving on the horizon. The civil rights breakthrough, hallucinogenic drugs, the counterculture itself, and you know, the belief that you know, if only Kennedy and Khrushchev took LSD together, we'd have world peace. But what happened was that I mean, the counterculture was like this huge phenomenon, which began to get co-opted seriously by 1965 by the establishment, and by 1967, it was attracting. Well, okay, let's backtrack. 1962 was a breakthrough year. That's when pop music came back after like falling to pieces around 1958, 59. That's when the Beatles had their first hit. The Stones formed Dylan's first record. The pop charts were suddenly like mostly great stuff. Again, like, you know, like all the amazing girl groups, the Phil Spector stuff, you know, the Shirelles and the Four Seasons, Joan Warwick, the Beach Boys. Simultaneously, there was a huge drug taking took off in the summer of 1962. Suddenly, the amount of people interested in taking drugs quintupled, maybe. There were huge shortages of hallucinogens and marijuana. Simultaneously, as a result, a lot of what I consider like 42nd Street sleaze, you know, drug dealers and stuff, started bum rushing bohemian scene for the first time. Simultaneously, the first 12-year-old girl runaways hit the scene for the first time. Simultaneously, spare change. Like before that, if you went to a coffee house, like an old bohemia, like people would have, what do you do? Idea being that you did something artistic, and if you didn't do anything, you were a phony, a hanger-on, a poser, you know. Whereas all of a sudden, like, what do you mean? What do I do? Got any spare change? You know, anyway, that was the beginning of Bohemia being bum rushed by lower elements. But by '67, I mean, every ex-con creep hustler in the world, girls who fuck, drugs, let me at it. And the whole, I mean, like in early 1967, the diggers in San Francisco put these posters up all over the place. Last week, this 15-year-old girl from Marin County came to the Haight to see what was going on. She met this guy who gave her LSD and speed and lined her up for a gangbang for $5 a pop with a bunch of people. And that's the worst thing that happened since the week before, when this 15-year-old girl from Oakland came to the Haight, and the same thing. I mean, this is like the spring of, be sure to wear flowers in your hair, because I mean, lots of gentle people there. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, you know. Now my take was that the whole thing basically came to an end in August of 1967. That was when the you know, the shit hit the fan. Curiously, Joe Boyd in his book White Bicycles says the same thing. It was August 1960. In fact, there was a certain weekend in August when in England there's a place called the Roundhouse. There was this really cool musical venue, And all of a sudden, this one weekend, it was where all the cool people saw all the cool bands. And suddenly, this one weekend, it was like all tourists. And he saw that as like the, the beginning of the end. And of course, well, the disintegration of the, hippie scene was also that like this guy named, there's a guy named Groovy. Groovy was a friend of Ed Sanders. And when Ed Sanders moved the Peace Eye bookstore from 10th Street to a new location on Avenue A, he had Groovy take over the Peace Eye in the backyard as a crash pad because, like, as the diggers foretold in early '67, they knew that there was going to be a huge influx of young people coming into the scene in San Francisco and New York, which indeed there was. Like all these, I mean, this magical thing was happening, and all these young people wanted to, be a part of it, which was deeply understandable. Anyway, he arranged dozens of people, like it was a mass crash pad which he was organizing, and he had this rich girlfriend, and they were both murdered by some drug dealers in maybe August 1967 approximately. And it was like the Lower East Side was a very safe place, I moved there in '59. I was worried. I'm a Milwaukee kid, and here I'm in a New York slum. And I asked everybody, is it safe? Any trouble around here? And I asked a bunch of people, and the only trouble was a couple of people said the same thing. Well, 2 years ago, this guy got stabbed in the arm with a knife, but it was his fault. He was drunk and started a fight. That was it. That was the trouble. I mean, and then by '67, Groovy is murdered. And by that time, the like bad people, bad drug dealers, like evil marauding gangs of speed freaks were becoming. People started carrying guns around. Well, people started carrying guns around actually in '64 and '5. It was like starting to the seams were starting to show. Anyway, by 1968, early '68, like it started to become like really dangerous, as opposed to a year previously. It was like the scene was virtually danger free, and of course the dangerousness of the Lower East Side continued for years and years. It got worse and worse.
Did it ever come to affect you? Were you ever in danger or jeopardy during that time?
Oh yeah, these guys busted into our place and stole some stuff, and I got punched out. When, that was about the that was the main thing. That only happened once though. Like I got out in March of '68 because we got a deal with Elektra Records to make an album, and Sam Shepard got a deal with Antonioni to write Zabriskie Point. So we all had to go to Los Angeles, like coincidentally at the same time. It was like fate conspired to like move us there, and so I got out of Dodge basically, as it was really falling apart.
What do you just? Sorry, this is we're getting away from the 20th century, but
yeah.
but I'm so curious about mentioning Zabriskie Point. Of course, there's an interesting crossover in, like, I was reading your liner notes about Bob Dylan getting Jim Kweskin to crash at your place. Of course, Jim Kweskin was associated with Mel Lyman, who's considered a sort of acid guru of the time. And Mark Frechette of Zabriskie Point, the star of Zabriskie Point, was one of Mel Lyman's group. I think Daria Halpern was too. I think they were both associated with Mel Lyman. I'm not entirely sure about that. Of course, Mark Frechette ended up dying in prison because he participated in armed robberies and whatnot, robbed banks. So he kind of went a little dark, maybe. But a lot of people at the time hated Zabriskie Point. How do you feel about Zabriskie Point as a representation of the 60s? I'm just curious.
I never saw it, actually. And in fact, I never saw Easy Rider until Radio City Music Hall did they showed Easy Rider with a bunch of musicians playing the songs from it, and that was the first time I actually saw the movie. When I heard about, I read the review, and I thought, like, this looks like idiotic bullshit, was my take. And when I finally saw it, I thought, well, this is idiotic bullshit. I mean, like the depiction of the hippie scene was like so clueless. Just slap side of face. Oh my God, like that hippie commune scene where they're panning all the faces of these noble, back to the land, like jerks. The movie was just really clueless.
Okay.
Really stupid. Yuck. Anyway.
Do you still get royalties? Do you get money from Easy Rider?
Never got a goddamn penny.
No?
No.
Jeez.
A long story. A long story.
Let's get back to the 20th century. Yeah. But okay, all right. So sorry, I had to ask about Zabriskie Point.
Right.
I can send it to you if you want a copy. I'll give you a Zabriskie Point. It's very idealized. It's very misty-eyed, which I don't think you would appreciate. But okay, lots of questions. So okay, let's go way back. Waterloo Sunset had to be 1967.
Yeah.
Do you have a history with the Kinks or Ray Davies? Is there anything you want to talk about there? Any stories there?
Oh, I have kind of like a nasty story, so I don't know whether I should say it or not.
Oh no! Does it make Ray look bad or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not.
Let's not.
Let me ask you a different question. I actually interviewed Ray Davies very briefly, a little email interview, not a very good interview, but he said something really interesting about Waterloo Sunset, that he wrote it from a dream. And he never followed it up. So I don't know what the dream was or anything like that, but the song was based on a dream.
Okay.
Are dreams something that ever impact you as a musician? Do you ever have songs you write in dreams or hear in dreams or no?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. What are some? Of course, now I'm having brain burst. Be Sad is a dream song. It was on the Hero Stampfel album, Sure Sign of Something.
Okay.
Just one yesterday from the second Bottle Cap album. That was a dream song. Oh boy, I'm I'm brain farting. Of course, like after this, I'll think, oh yeah, there's that and that and that.
Yeah. I mean, when you say they're dream songs, just those two songs are fine. I'm just curious, are they songs you wrote in dreams? Like, are they songs you woke up with the song complete, or they were inspired by dreams?
It happens the same way. Like, I'll be dreaming a song. Oh, Bama-Lama-Lama-Loo is a dream song. Like that. Well, I'll tell you about that one. Like, in the dream, I was listening to Little Richard and Tennessee Williams became lovers and collaborated on writing songs together. And I was listening to their album, right? And there were a couple songs that were absolutely incredible. And when I woke up, I could only remember one of the songs, and it wasn't one of the best ones. And I thought, well, no, that's that's one that I was familiar with. Then I realized, no, wait, that's new. That's a new song. I was confusing it with Shaumbra, a Little Richard song, but it was, and the way a dream song works is I'll wake up and I'll have a vague recollection of the melody, and here's the important part, I'll know what the song is about. And I hardly ever have more than like one sentence, that I actually remember, like one line. Oh, another one is Holy Terror on the Duke of the Beatniks album. Like in that case, like this guy, a friend of mine, was like showing me this song. It's like an example, like a jaw-dropping gospel song, and the only line I could remember was "Holy Terror, gonna blow you up for Jesus." And like in the dream, the whole song was like that, like these over-the-top lines, And I woke up and I've got to do this one, but I realized that the only way to, unlike the dream, I couldn't like continue in that vein. The only way to make a line like that work is to do the whole rest of the song totally straight. Like in dreams, things tend to be like exaggerated and over emotional and don't work in real life. But what happens is that in a dream song, I'll wake up, there'll be a melody, there'll be one line I remember, and it always happens the same way. Like I'll write that line down, and it'll like the accompanying lines will then appear, and then it'll start to roll. Like once mine I've heard is creatively clear in the morning, because dreams kind of like sweep crap out, and your mind is sort of like in good shape to approach creative tasks. And it always happens the same way. Like I'll write, and then until I don't know the next line. And when I don't know the next line, I'll go back to the top and read them over. And by the time I get to where I was, the next line will appear, and I'll write some more. And as soon as I can't think of the next line, I go back to the top and go down and bang, like bang, bang. And it always happens like within minutes in a dream song. And that's the way they happen. But I haven't had a dream song in years. Actually.
Talking about Duke of the Beatniks, just there's a song I love. I believe it's on Duke of the Beatniks. Beware the Chupacabra.
Which one? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh God!
How did that come to be?
This sleazy guy was making an exploitive film about the Chupacabra, and wanted me to write a song for the movie, which never happened, right? And so that was the inspiration for the song. It's a really good song. I mean, it has some really great lines. I'm very, very proud of that particular one. And the Latin-esque south of the border melodrama.
Where were you getting the Kriega Bandolo or Bandolo Kriega? That has a few different. I found a Brazilian psych folk artist who has a song with that in it. I think there's a comic book reference or some sort of
comic book reference, like Tarzan comics. Tarzan comics in the 40s would have like all these words. Like bandolo meant kill, like it was all like all this, It was, and IE, of course, is like one of those, cliche, like IE. And Kriega was sort of like I forget what Kriega meant. It was basically like a thing you say before when you're about to attack somebody or something. But yeah, they were from like Tarzan comics.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, all right. So we should go back to the 20th century. So earlier I mentioned Hank Williams and this idea that I do have a couple of things like, why are there no Hank Williams songs? The other one that stuns me for 1939, Over the Rainbow, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You didn't choose that. You didn't do that. You talk about it in the liner notes, but you didn't do that song. And I'm wondering if there's a reason you avoided it, if it was too obvious, if...
Well, no, like, was, oh, they say it's wonderful. I mean, it's a good song, but like, I love They Say It's Wonderful. I mean, like, I don't really think I could have done that great a job on Over the Rainbow, actually.
You don't think what?
I could have done it that well.
Okay. Okay, all right. Just wondered. Yeah, okay. Like the thing about this, like you're most associated with the 1960s because of the Holy Modal Rounders and the Fugs and things like this, but and the Easy Rider soundtrack, of course. but you seem on this anthology like you really are doing. You're doing Irving Berlin, Rodgers and Hart. You're doing show tunes, you're doing minstrel tunes, you're doing kind of, there's a lot of sort of a Broadway stuff. There are things that surprise me, and I wonder, are you moving more towards listening to that sort of stuff? Is that music you always liked? Were you always an Irving Berlin fan, or Gershwin, or was that something that came to you later on?
Always Gershwin. I mean, Antonia and I, the first record we ever bought at the age of 12, both of us, was Rhapsody in Blue. Wow. For instance. And I, of course, listened to pop radio from childhood, from early childhood, and loved the songs that I loved, hated the songs I hated, was indifferent to the songs that were so-so, and I had the incredible good fortune to be a teenager when rock and roll came along. I mean, that was like talk about like good fortune, Not to mention hearing the Smith Anthology and being like in my early 20s. Anyway, there were these two fake books. The first fake books, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They were like 1,000 songs. They were like a trade paperback, like softcover paperback, 3 songs on a page. So these two books from 1950 were illegal, non-copyright paying books that were bought by like lounge pianists and stuff like that to do requests, and then they would look it up and they could play the song, that was why they were called fake books. And they cost $50 back then, which is like, because they were, under the table illegal.
Sorry, 50 or 15? I didn't.
50.
50, wow.
Yeah, this is like in the 1960s. They were like, they were going for like that kind of money. And I got my hands on these 2 volumes in 1970. And Antonia and I went through them and looked at all the songs we used to like when we were kids, and found out that in every case, they were great songs with incredible melodies and incredible chords. Like we found out that our tastes were our taste was impeccable, which of course has always been. And I subsequently went through both the books, looking at every song that I wasn't familiar with. Of course, most of the songs in those books were, mediocre, but I found a couple of songs that I wasn't aware of, like Home, my 1932 song. I missed that one somehow. And as I point out in the liner notes, it's strange that the song is so well known. Like it was covered by, I mean, even Paul McCartney covered it, for Christ's sake, you know. And what's another one that was new to me? Oh, I never knew. 1925, like that was a song that I never knew. There's also a couple other songs that were new to me that I liked. I like Blue Champagne from 1945. It's one I never had heard, but yeah, in fact, like before the Rounders moved to Oregon, we had to get together to work out new songs, and I introduced a bunch of great American songbook songs, you know, because my idea I wanted the Rounders to be able to play, you know, like a broader spectrum of music. Like that was my ideal even back then, like to cover the entire 20th century, not to mention folk songs. You know, I mean, that was like what I wanted to do, you know, way back then. And the whole band was like, that doesn't sound like a Holy Molar Rounder song to me. That's the idea. Yes, exactly. You know, like I love the idea of like doing a performance and like throwing in a song that like no one would ever expect in a million years, and songs that like contracted hugely from the, you know, songs around it. This is you know the path that I wanted to take. So
Okay.
that was, yeah.
So I mean, this actually parallels a question I was going to ask you, because what I noticed from the anthology is like there's really very little material on the 20th century. I keep calling it the anthology. I know it's not an anthology, but
Yeah.
you know, whatever. It's just for ease. But there's very little material that does overlap with the stuff the Rounders did. There are no blues covers. There are no sort of Appalachian folk things. You know, no Roscoe Holcomb or anything. I don't think the Rounders actually did Roscoe Holcomb, but things like Bullfrog Blues. There's all sorts of things that were in the Rounders repertoire that it's just completely absent. And I'm wondering, like, are you deliberately trying to present something other than what the Rounders did? Are you trying to move away from that body of work to say this is the other side of what you like or what you love? Or
Well, basically, this is like non you know, not non-traditional roots. Basically, like I was looking for popular music, like occasionally obscure. Like the most obscure song there is probably "The Years" from 1964. The uh the song by what's her name? Oh my God.
hang on, I got the notes in front of me here. I can just find them. 64 was The Years, Dale Stanley.
Stanley, yeah. She wrote it when she was 13.
Mm-hmm.
And hardly anybody knows the song at all. I couldn't even find out when she was born. Like I had to get copyright information, which I finally did find, but all I found out was that she had Alzheimer's or dementia, and nobody knew where she was. Basically, it's like, you know, like a tragic thing. But that was a you know, like a folk singer songwriter song. So that's like the main song that connected with the Rounders as tradition. In fact, the year that the Boston Broadside picked the Holy Modal Rounders as the out of town best group of the year, and Dale Stanley, the album that the song was taken from the same year, was picked as the best, you know, like female folk singer choice. But yeah, basically I was going pop.
Okay. All right. All right. So sorry, I may have missed part of what you said there. So you were moving away from the Rounders repertoire for this. You were looking for other things.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Where did you find the song Nobody? That's probably, at this point anyhow, it's my favorite song on the whole anthology. I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of Bert Williams. How did you first stumble across that?
In the late 40s, maybe 1950, a Bob Hope movie called The Seven Little Foys. Eddie Foy was a vaudeville performer who, I believe his wife died, and here he was a performer with, suddenly he had 7 kids to take care of, and he worked them into his vaudeville act. Eddie Foy and the Seven Little Foys. I mean, this is like this happened. This is like historical, and this was in the teens, 20s, and he sang the song "Nobody" in the movie. And that was my first exposure to it, and I became aware of Bert Williams in the 70s. I think he was the first black superstar. He was born in the Caribbean. I'm not quite sure, but I've seen conflicting reports of what island he was from. Came here when he was a child. Serious alpha male, like smart as a whip, over 6 feet tall, and in the words of W.C. Fields, the funniest man I ever knew and the saddest. He was like the first black superstar, but he had to hire a white guy to say he was his manager because the venues that he was like starring in didn't want to put the money into the hands of a black person. They had this white guy is obviously in charge of this, the good old days there, you know. I heard that David Hadju, the writer, he wrote Positively 4th Street. He wrote an amazing book about the comic book industry, among other things. And I just got together with Art Spiegelman yesterday, who did one of the illustrations for the 100 songs. And he said that he read a PDF of Hodges' new book, which is about early vaudeville performers, which goes into great detail about the life of Bert Williams. It was like I say, the first black superstar. Well, actually, you could say that Jack Johnson, the heavyweight boxer, was a contemporary from the early aughts as well. Another groundbreaking, first echelon black person in the sports entertainment milieu.
Would you agree, like, that Bert Williams is not well remembered now? I mean, is it just me that doesn't know him? I don't.
He's pretty obscure. I never heard of him till the 70s. And Archaeophone Records. You familiar with them? Archaeophone, like archaeological phone.
No.
They do CDs of old 78s and cylinders. They released his whole repertoire on every Bert Williams recording. It's available. I would recommend a book called Stomp and Swerve. Subtitle American Music Gets Hot, 1842, 1923. It was written by a punk rock bass player. Like a lot of punk rockers got into roots music,
Yeah.
And this book is basically about the black influence on white music. Stomp equals the beat. Swerve equals bending notes. Stomp and swerve. Stomp and swerve equals hot. Unquote. Anyway, this book, Archie made a CD of all the songs referenced in this particular book, and it's a real eye opener about the period. I highly recommend it to everyone who wants to know about. And an even deeper dive is on the part of Ellen Lowe. You know his From Minstrel to Mojo set.
Do I know his what from Mojo set?
From Minstrel to Mojo.
No.
9 CDs covering from the 90s to about the 1950s. And it was like basically the Smith Anthology writ large. Peter Lozenge.
Okay.
It was like about roots music and popular music and gospel music and country music, you know, sweeping over 9 CDs. But his latest work is called Turn Me Loose, White Man. It's 30 CDs, and it's about the impact of Black music on American music. The liner notes on volume 1, covering the first 15 years, is about 350 pages. So this 30 CD, and the second volume is coming out shortly, but here's basically 30 CDs, 750 words of liner notes about the most in-depth look at Black impact on white music in history. It's an absolutely amazing, fascinating piece of work.
Okay, I will look into it. Do you think Bert Williams is forgotten because he's Black? Is that why we haven't? Is there an element of racism in our forgetting, or why is he not a household name? That's an amazing song. Nobody. Why is it lost?
You know, Fields and Weber.
Mm-hmm.
Fields and Weber. You familiar with them?
No.
What about oh hell. Who wrote hell, I'm blocking out the name. You have the notes handy?
Yep. What?
Look up oh, Harry Von Tilzer. You know him?
What year is he?
Late 1930s, 20th.
But I mean, is there a song I should look at?
Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
Oh, okay. All right.
But you never heard of him?
No. Yeah. I've heard that song a billion times. That's a well-remembered song, but yeah, it's totally new to me. His name.
So the point I'm trying to make is that it isn't that Bert Williams was Black. It's that everybody from back then is mostly not remembered, Black or white. In fact, the fact that Williams is Black would make him maybe a little bit more memorable because of his unique status. Are you familiar with James Reese Europe?
Nope.
Neither was I until the 80s. He's the Duke Ellington of ragtime.
Okay.
You know about Vernon and Irene Castle?
Their names I have heard. Yeah.
Yeah, they introduced modern ballroom dancing to the world. And around 1911 and 12, and they used James Reese Europe's band, which was literally the best band in the land. Go to YouTube and listen to Castle Rock, I forget which one it is. His band was mostly you read about I read about it more extensively in the overview, but he was whoa there were a bunch of black musicians that got together, theater and music people in New York in the early '80s. They were centered in the Marshall Hotel in the West 50s in a section that was then called Black Bohemia. And Bert Williams was one of the, there was a group called the Frogs, okay?
Okay.
I believe that they chose that name from the Aristophanes play, which is about a really smart slave and his really stupid owner. And they were basically a avant-garde black group that were promoting black music, black innovation, and black modernity. Like they one of their works was a play called Indahomey, African country from like 1906 or so. James Europe was the musical director. It was on one hand, it was sort of a minstrelly kind of production, but it basically satirized and deconstructed the whole idea of minstrelsy. It was a very what's the word? Well, innovative and genre cracking piece of work. Also, there, besides the music being very avant-garde for the time, their stage techniques and lighting were also like beyond anything done in white theater. Suddenly, like these blacks were doing breakthrough, best stuff going work, which is their intention. They wanted to basically put forth the idea of like blacks as being like singular, creative, and producing these artistic breakthroughs. Prior to that, if you're a black person on stage, you had to dress as a clown, basically, the whole minstrel get up thing. Mm-hmm. The only exceptions being the blacks playing gospel music or classical music. But the first actual performers of black music on stage that wore suits that weren't classical or gospel were by this group called the Memphis Group. I'm blocking out the guy's name, but one of the Frogs, one of these avant-garde black guys, wrote the song called "All Coons Look Alike to Me."
All what look alike?
All coons look alike to me.
I still didn't get all what look alike to me.
Coons.
Coons. Oh, easy. Okay.
Yeah. It was on one hand, it was a derogatory word for blacks. On the other hand, blacks used it too because it was so common. When Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champion, would be boxing, the entire white audience would sing "All Coons Look Alike to Me" in unison when he entered the ring. And the guy that wrote the song was a black guy and one of the Frogs. And his defense of it was, this was a song that introduced ragtime rhythm on the 2 and 4, two most white people. So on one hand, yeah, it was a derogatory, nasty song. Incidentally, the point of view character in the song is actually a black woman talking about other black men. Incidentally, anyway, the point being that he also had this group, the Memphis Group, which were the first non-gospel classical black performers that performed in formal wear. Also, James Reese Europe, like his band, dressed in tuxedos. he was the first. He brought the first black group to Carnegie Hall, and since the Castles used him as their band, suddenly all white society wanted to be like the Castles, do those dances, and hire black musicians because of their superiority.
Mm.
And Johnson, Europe, James Reese Europe, had this outfit called the Cleft Club, which is, among other things, a booking agency. So he was able to find work playing for whites for like $30 a night, at a time that the average black worker made like $1 a week. Anyway, like I say, the Duke Ellington of ragtime. And a weird thing I found out during my writing of the notes was that U.B. Blake called him the Martin Luther King of black music.
Who calls him the Martin Luther King of black music?
U.B. Blake.
U.B. Blake. Okay.
Yeah. When you're done, Google James Reese Europe for like the. Anyway, both Martin Luther King and James Reese Europe were murdered at the age of 39. Europe was the first black person that had a funeral procession down Broadway. He was also, he joined the he joined the army in World War I. He wanted to be a machine gunner, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't allow the white army. He was put in charge, joined the Harlem Hellfighters, the most decorated fighting group in World War I, far and away. And he was put in charge of their band, which basically introduced ragtime, jazz-influenced music to Europe at large. Anyway, they weren't allowed to, blacks weren't allowed to have a parade down Fifth Avenue before going to World War I, unlike all the white groups. But when Europe's men came back, they actually, the Hellfighters were given their march down Broadway from Washington Square to Harlem. And they made their first recordings, and subsequently he was killed by one of the drummers in his band in this ridiculous altercation. I mean, like we're talking a loss on the level of Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding. I mean, this Europe would have been obviously the most like breakthrough musician of the 1920s. I mean, he already was. I mean, he was like fantastically popular, and I mean, he would have lived to the rock and roll era, you know, and like God knows what the world has been deprived of with his loss.
Which year are we talking about? Which song is? There is a song on the 100 songs that represents this, right?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay.
This is just in the overview. Like he was like a critical figure in the history of 20th century music. Another one of my dazzling insights was that the Great American Songbook wouldn't exist without blacks and Jews. No blacks, no backbeat, no 2/4, no Jews, none of those melodies that the Great American Songbook is like known for. Take out Jews, take out blacks, no Great American Songbook, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if it were a Black Jewish conspiracy, the Great American Songbook. Of course, it wasn't, but it happened like on a cosmic level. It was a Black Jewish Jewish conspiracy, although neither the blacks or the Jews were conspiring together to produce it. It just happened. And like I say, wouldn't have happened without either of those components.
Now, just for the record, I booked an hour and a half on Zoom. I think I could talk to you all day. And I'm sure you don't want to talk all day, but I could. I have to transcribe all this, so it's going to be. But so right now we're looking at maybe ending in 15 minutes. But I have tons of questions I haven't gotten to yet.
Right.
I want to ask about Harry. What's that?
Cut me short when I digress.
No. This is all fantastic. This is great. But I want to ask about the Harry Smith anthology and whether Harry Smith has had a direct or indirect influence on your process of selecting songs, because you actually have a direct link with Harry Smith. So
yeah, absolutely. And in fact, Alan Lowe, who I talked about with his work, Greel Marcus calls Alan Lowe the Harry Smith for the 21st century, incidentally. And my big insight about the anthology, is that I heard the anthology and had my first hallucinogen, peyote, in October of 1959. And I just recently realized that both the peyote and the Harry Smith anthology made me realize that the world was far more strange than I had realized, dreamed, and far more vast than I had dreamed. In other words, like both Smith and hallucinogens gave me the same basic greater understanding of reality. So yeah, I mean, Smith is absolutely a template for this whole project.
All right. Okay. All right. Specific questions. Leonard Cohen's Everybody Knows. Was that a song you knew? Have you had interactions with Leonard Cohen, or did you have interactions with Leonard Cohen? You don't strike me as the kind of guy who would necessarily like Leonard Cohen, because he is often pretty earnest, and I don't think you enjoy earnestness.
I adore earnestness. I love earnestness. I worship earnestness. Come on.
Well, but you have said that some folk stuff is too earnest for you, going back to.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's different.
But Cohen you like. Cohen
I adore. Cohen I respect. Cohen is one of the greatest writers of songwriters who ever lived. And Mark Bingham introduced me to that song. He was singing it one day. And I said, what the hell is that? Like, I never heard the song till I heard him do it. And that absolutely had to be, included.
Okay. Yeah.
He also had the idea of putting in 3/4 time. And he cut out he suggested cutting out the misogynistic verse. There was about all these people you had to meet without your clothes, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And, I could see dropping that verse as well.
So you could say that again? You could.
I agreed that the verse should be dropped. It was his idea to drop that verse off.
That actually was what I wanted to ask you about. I was surprised by that, because you usually like Running Bear, for example, is an extremely kind of politically incorrect song. The whole Ooga Chaka chorus probably wouldn't go over very well with some communities. But it's there, and it's uncensored, raw, original form, or you're covering you're doing the song, but you're not doing the full thing of Everybody Knows. So I wondered about that. I wondered about like the decision to censor in some cases and not others.
It was Mark Bingham's idea, and I agreed with him. And instantly, I didn't realize Running Bear was written by the Big Bopper.
No, neither did I. I thought it was a Bob Wills song. It's a great song. It's really fun. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a Leonard Cohen story? Did you ever cross paths with the man, or is he?
No, but his book Beautiful Losers takes place in 1958. Philip K. Dick wrote a book called The Confessions of a Crap Artist, which happened in 1958 as well. 1958 was a world-changing year, as was 1962. In both cases, the change that that the year made began to really manifest powerfully in the fall of 1958. In both Beautiful Losers and Confessions of a Crap Artist, the plots culminate and everything changes radically in the fall of 1958. So that was kind of like a weird thing about Leonard Cohen, Philip K. Dick in 1958.
Okay. I don't know if there's a story here. If there isn't a story here, we don't have to go there. But I know Betsy's father, I believe, knew Philip K. Dick and published Philip K. Dick early on.
Was the first person to publish Philip K. Dick.
Yeah. Did you ever? Do you have any other associations with Philip K. Dick? Did you ever cross paths with him? Just curious.
Yeah, Betsy and I met him in the 1980s, and he actually had her father's acceptance letter for his first story framed, which he showed to us, which is very, very touching. At the time, he was deeply into snuff. Snuff, you know.
Okay, snuff, right.
Powder tobacco. He had this briefcase with dozens of different varieties of snuff, which he kept on alternating while we're seeing him. It was basically doing a snuff binge simultaneously.
All right.
But he's a big hero of mine, Philip K. Dick.
Yeah. Did Betsy have any influence on the 100 songs? Are there any songs that you included specifically because of her or because of her influence?
Not really. I don't think so. Offhand.
You mentioned she has her own tastes. What does she like? What does she listen to?
Oh, everything.
All right. Hi, Betsy.
The Roaches. Oh, everything except jazz.
Actually, early jazz is fine, but not
early jazz, not later jazz. Show tunes. We both are deeply into show tunes.
Peter, I have a meeting at 4:30, so should I take my computer to the back?
Okay, well, we're going to be shortly over.
Okay.
Yeah, we're over in a few minutes. I have to ask, let's go to the final question I have. Like I could talk to you about Dylan and Springsteen and all this, but yeah. Aki Alliong, did you ever, like, how did you get the lyrics to Shaumbra? Are you making up your own interpretation? Did you interact with him? He's out there, so.
I found them online. Like I tried to figure them out, and then I actually found them online, and they looked right, you know, to me.
What does double to the rear mean? That's the lyric that's weirdest for me.
Got me. I have no idea. No idea.
All right. I just, the Cramps cover that, and they actually have their own lyric about it, where it's climb the highest mountain just because it's there, which actually makes perfect sense to me, but it's not the right lyrics.
Well, that's perfectly all right. I changed a bunch of lyrics to the 100 songs, actually. I added 2 verses to Hearts Made of Stone.
Okay.
Antonia changed a lot of the words to Along Comes Mary, because when we finally found out what they were, a lot of them were pretty crappy, you know. Those are the 2 examples. And also I changed some words to and chirpy chirpy cheep cheep. Like I always heard this song as, you know, little baby boy, And when I looked up the song, I found it was a little baby bird.
Mhm.
And I sang a little baby boy. And so I added the last verse, like first, where's your mommy gone? Where's your daddy gone? And then to the last verse, like where's everybody gone? And you know, where's the people gone? Like to make the song even more tragic. And as I point out in the notes, the Guardian picked that as the most what were the maudlin song in pop history in terms of like, because it's about child abandonment, basically, you know.
So they're talking about the original or your version of it?
The original. It is about, you know, like it's a bird, but the bird is, it's a baby bird. It's a child bird.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's a continuity with the Holy Modal Rounders, because you often would take liberties with lyrics for Holy Modal Rounders covers of songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a last question. I have to ask this.
Sure.
It took me a little while to get used to your new voice. I am used to it now, but when I first listened to some of the songs, not all of them, some of them you have your old voice, you're belting it out with gusto, but it sounds some of the new songs like, oh no, what's going on with Peter's voice? But I you know, they've since grown on me. They're normalized. I like it. I get it. What happened to your voice, and is it gonna go back to the old way, or do we now have just a new voice?
Dysphonia. It's called dysphonia.
Mm-hmm.
The results of the causes are aging, heredity, prolonged overuse of misuse of voice. I'm working with a vocal therapist who's helping and making my voice be better and teaching me to work with a microphone so I don't have to, you know, to belt basically. And my voice is slowly improving, but it'll never be what it was before. Once.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a loss, but I like your new voice too, so it's okay. Peter, thank you very much. Is there any final thought we should put? If this is like, I don't know that I can transcribe more than an hour and a half of conversation, so
let me think about it and email any final thoughts, okay?
Please.
Like boy, do I have to take a piss.
All right, Peter, thank you so much, man. I wish you well. Thank you.
Great. Be in touch soon.